I've been racing Hyperland for the past 4 years, and those past 4 years have been quite a while in terms of the amount of sheer variety in the different setups that I've created, as well as the amount of effort that it took to make each setup. So in this video, I will be showing you all of the setups that I have actually saved over the past 4 years, and we'll just take a look at them together. Now, I did actually have way more rices than these. I used to make rices with this one GTK theme called Plata. Okay, so if I look for Plata GTK theme, basically there were way more rices, okay, that I had, but due to the nature of me not being quite, what do you call it, non-volatile, right? I just used to have OCD and probably still do, right? And so what I used to do is basically wipe my hard drive every time the package count got a little bit too high. Right now, I don't think I would care enough to do that, but still, some part of that is still in me. But anyway, that's why I still don't have any of the other rices that I used to have before. But as for whatever rices that I do have, this is what you can see. So CTS stands for Custom Theme Switcher. Okay, we'll just work our way from Gruvbox all the way until here. So let's just get started. Now, this one was actually from 2024. So let's open these two and let's show you what I've got here. Okay, now this. The intention that I made, especially when I started to create this kind of setups, is basically don't use icons when it comes to Waybar. At this point, I think I was 1 or 2 years into my journey of ricing and Hyperland and whatnot. And at this point, I still, for the life of me, could not have figured out how exactly to make icons work inside of Waybar. I tried the same thing inside of i3. Okay, there was i3 status. Even there, I couldn't figure out how to make icons work. But then eventually, as you can see here, I finally did manage to figure out how to make icons work, and I have them over here. But until then, this is what my setups used to look like, especially when it comes to the bar. Right, so here we just have the clock, pretty simple. And then we have a battery, just literally represented with bat, volume with vol, and backlight with BL as well. This is taking a lot of inspiration from my i3 setup, but I clearly don't have that in terms of this color scheme, or hell, even in the screenshots that I've saved here. This is for the first screenshot I've taken, right? Plain desktop. Now this one is just for the Windows. So I used to use the font JetBrains Mono Nerd font back then. Now that font is just way too overused. This font was SF Pro, no, this one was SF Mono. Yeah, this one I chose SF Mono specifically because it looked pretty cool and sharp. Okay, as you can see, there's that clicking effect that I've talked about in one of my previous videos where basically when it comes to setting font sizes on Hyperland, okay, you can set them to a particular size when the font basically clicks and gives you that satisfying feeling of getting a good font. Now, let me just show this to you as an example. Let's take the same font, okay? SF Pro Text Regular. Now, if I check this, yeah, the font looks a little bit bigger. Okay, great. If I reduce the font size to 11, oops, too small, doesn't look as good. But what you can do is meet the font size halfway in the middle, and when you do that, what happens is the font quality becomes instantly better while still looking big enough. That is what I meant by clicking, and if you can see here, the clicking effect is being used to its full capacity because the font just looks absolutely fantastic here, SF Mono, which is actually pretty hard to get the clicking effect right with when it comes to its font sizes because it only clicks at sizes 15 or 17. Okay, now that is for Gruvbox, right? I used to also write lots of C code back in the day, so that's a remnant of that. Now let's check out Dystopia. Dystopia, this was a fun one. Now here is where you can actually, okay, so this was last year. This was also 2024. This was in June. This was in February. That's nice. Okay, so these are not in any particular order, but you can still see the evolution in a way. Now, here is when the actual formation of this bar started to take place. This is where I got the initial concept from, right? Just having island style modules, Material inspired island style modules, having those at the top of the screen. This was, of course, Wall because back in June we did not have Matugen, or even if we did, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. So you did not have Material U colors back in the day. Basically, you had to use a tool called Wall to extract the colors from your wallpaper and then use that to theme the rest of the system. This is the second screenshot. Here we have our /Unix point, and then we also have the code editor that I use here, which, by the way, if you take a look here, this is what the code editor looks like right now. So right now I have a Ruby program opened. This is what it looks like. And by the way, if I change the theme to whatever different theme that I want, There you go. This is what you see. Now I can also switch the theme to something like noir, which means that you get this beautiful black slick theme instead. Now, speaking of slick, there's also a bunch of slick animations that I've created with this Overwatch panel here. Now, I was going to show you more of this later on, but since we're already here, I might as well show you how this works, right? Same thing applies to desktop as well. This is Discord. Okay, great. Well, I just closed that because it's going to take a second for it to load because of the internet and whatnot. Regardless, this is what VS Codium looks like. This is what niche looks like. So this is basically a fetch tool. Then we have a bunch of different themes. We have 10 or 11 themes in here in total, which makes for a pretty cool setup. The same Gruvbox wallpaper that you saw earlier, by the way. Oh, and if you want to learn how to make something like this yourself, yeah, that's right. Actually, just learn it instead of copying and pasting someone's dot files and hoping to God that it actually ends up working and doesn't break for a single time on your damn computer. Well, good luck, because I have created a program that helps you do exactly just that. In fact, let me just show you. So, as you can see in the program, which is the first link in the description, you can just go over to System Reforging, and inside of this module called theme switchers, that's right. Inside of this theme switchers module, which is basically 2 hours long, I tell you exactly what a theme switcher is, the different kinds, how to set up wallpaper-based theme switching, which is basically done with Matugen or Pywall, two tools that can extract the colors from your wallpaper using magic code stuff, okay, and then apply them to the rest of your theme, rest of your system rather, right? That and custom theme switching as well, with putting your favorite themes inside of a list and then switching between them at your will. If you want to learn how to do this yourself, you can go ahead, click the first link in the description, and I would love to show you how. As you can see, there is the code part that I teach you how to write as well. So you're truly just not left alone to do whatever you want. I guide you through exactly how this system works. It's a 3-step system, as you can see here. We start off with, hold on, let me just show you here. We start off with Genesis, where we get started with, what do you call it? Yep, installing Arch, then Hyprland. In system reforging, we reforge the setup, and then inside of finishing touches, we just add in some finishing touches to our reforged Hyperland system. So if you want this for yourself, if you want to learn how to make this, go ahead, click the first link in the description right now, and you can check it out. You can just pause this video, you can return back to it later on, but yeah. Okay, now that would be for the second rice, what I like to call Dystopia. Now for Everforest, this was actually one of the more original ones. That was in April. Now this is more of a light themed rice. I actually call this succulent. I have it on my Reddit. Good luck if you can find my Reddit, right? I have this uploaded right here. And this is where the final iteration, the final little piece of the puzzle fit as for the wayboard itself. This is where I finalized the design, decided that, you know what, this looks pretty good. Even if it's not a dock, even if it's stuck at the top of the, what do you call it, screen, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to keep this. That's what I thought, and that's what ended up happening. Same icons, same material design icons, same design philosophy here when it comes to the bar. This round, when was it? It was April of last year. So it's been a year, over a year, since I decided that I was going to keep this bar setup. And as for this rice, well, it clearly lacks a bit of character compared to the rices that I have right now, right? Clearly lacks a bit of character, of course, but just what I had at that time. Now, this inspiration folder is actually a secret I've been keeping, right? Now, in here, I keep all the inspiration that I use in order to come up with new rices whenever I feel like I'm at a dead end. Okay, so that's in here. And by the way, if you want to know what this is, you can just subscribe. I might just make a video on it later if you do subscribe. So yeah, that. Okay, now for Mac OS inspired. This one was actually earlier this year in 2025. So if we open this, this is what you see. Not my proudest creation. I tried to go for, I don't remember which distro of macOS exactly it was, probably something like Ventura. But basically, in one of those distros, we had this date module over here, this date along with this time over here, right? But the part that I'm not most proud about is this one, the workspace switcher. It looks good and all when you compare it to this. I mean, this looks better, definitely, the one in my current rice. But here, I hadn't quite figured out how to compress the modules, right? I hadn't quite figured out how to use min height in order to squish the modules so that they can look as streamlined as and as thin as this. So that's why you see this part over here. But I'm pretty sure if I could recreate this bar, like today, it would look absolutely fantastic. I've already made a video on customizing Waybar to look absolutely minimal and stunning in the past right? With Apple's liquid glass and whatnot. So if I had to recreate this setup today, boy, oh boy, would that look good. Especially the waybar. Not to mention with this panel and all the other cool stuff that I'm able to come up with. And by the way, of course, I teach you how you can use min height and all those other secret little tricks that I mentioned here inside of the program. So if you want to learn those as well, which I've picked up over my 4 years of racing Hyperland, you can go ahead, click the link and check it out. But yeah, this is the plain desktop, and as you can see, this is what the different browsers and my terminal used to look like at the time. I will admit my music taste has changed quite a little bit, but regardless, this is what I had going on at the time. Okay, then what else? Then we have Matugen. Okay, this is the Matugen era. So this starts from, when was this? March of this year, and ends on September. Wow, I did not think. Okay, let's check this out. Great, yes, this rice. Okay, okay, there is actually a story to this rice. The story was basically this rice was ended up going to becoming, oh God, I'm mincing words, but anyway, this rice was actually a Reddit post that I made titled Cortana needs your help getting out or something like that. So this was basically just a bunch of humor. It got removed the first time because it looked pretty default, which I will agree, it does look pretty default at first glance, but otherwise, yes, this one also looks fantastic. And here we just have variations of the same thing. Because this is using Matugen, I've just changed the wallpapers a little bit, because of which you see the same underlying principle that you can see applied to every little theme here. And of course, we have these rices as well, as you can see. They're all with different waybar variations. These are mostly waybar variations, as I mentioned. I still have to work on them a little bit more, but this is what you can do when you use Google's material design philosophy as a starting point. It looks pretty freaking sexy. That's for Matugen. Then we have Rose Pine. Now this is the oh so popular, what do you call it, wallpaper that I've used inside of all my videos. Not all of my videos, but in fact the most popular one so far, which is just how to rice Hyprland. It's this one, this this rice alone, right? That's that. And then for tomorrow night, okay, here is where things start to get interesting. We see the plot twist. Now, the reason why I mentioned plot twist is because, look, if you check the modified time here, this was 3 years ago. 3 years ago is when this was actually done. So in 2022, when was this? June? Yep, June 2022, 1:30 a.m. I was probably even awake at that time. I don't even remember, but 3 years ago was when I had this set up over here in BSPWM. Okay, it was actually in the morning, seems like. For whatever reason, the time is corrupted here, but anyway. Yeah, this is what my setup looked like. There are, because this was BSPWM and the nature of PyCom and the Xorg era, right? You wouldn't have rounded corners, you wouldn't have blur, you'd only have transparency. And most of your setups didn't actually have rounded corners, as I just mentioned. Everything would just be blocky Windows 10 style. It was not until, not quite sure which movement it was, most likely it was Windows 11 that came out with this rounded corner stuff. But once it did, as you can see here, there are rounded corners everywhere. First it was Windows, I believe, then it was Android, then it was Apple. No, Apple was probably rounded since the beginning, but anyway, this is what it looked like at the time. Ah, honestly, takes me back to those days. Fun. Now, for tomorrow night, this is the same one reincarnated with the spirit that I have here. This one also looks pretty cool. There's not really much different over here except the wallpaper as well as the bar. So that's all you got to see in this case. Now, Vaporwave. This one as well was a Reddit rice, and turns out this one was actually really popular amongst the community when I shared it. It got around 530 upvotes or something. It got that many upvotes, and I'm glad the community liked it, but this is what we have so far. Same weather module, okay, using Pywall still, because Matugen still wasn't around. Ah, fun. And the terminal I used to use back in the day was actually Alacrity instead of Kitty, because I just didn't trust Kitty enough and it was too slow. But yeah, this is what you could make Spotify and setup look like. And of course, for the custom theme switcher, that's basically the same as these themes that you see here. Now, tell you what, instead of showing you the screenshots here, guess what I'm going to do? I am going to show you all the themes live here so you can experience them with me once again. So let's do this. Starting off with Cappuccino, right? This is what it looks like. Not to mention, there's also a wallpaper switcher that I have. So in case I decide that I'm sick of one particular wallpaper, I can just up and switch whenever I choose. That's actually the best part of learning how to make something like this yourself. Thing is, you could just copy somebody else's dot files and then get away with it. That's exactly what I did. I used ML4W, I used int4 dots, I used hyperdots. Yes, they used to be called hyperdots back in the day, the Hide desktop project, and Celestia, and oh god, there's so many more that I just can't remember, but I've used all of them, and having used all of them for quite a while, hell, I even used Archcraft. Yes, Archcraft as well. Having used all of them for quite a while, I came to this one conclusion. Okay, one, it doesn't feel as good as you think it would, right? Just using somebody else's setup that they've created. And two, things always end up breaking. With Archcraft, it was the keyring. With ML4W, it was some other config issue. Same goes for all the other little desktop shells that I mentioned earlier, which is why I just found it so much easier to learn how to make something like this myself and then make it. Which is why I would like to give you that same privilege as well. That same privilege of knowing how to make something like this yourself instead of just taking the tools from someone else and hoping that you know how to use them. That's for Cappuccino. Then we have e-ink. Okay, this is the e-ink theme. Now, it actually gets really, really fun if I show you the different. Okay, let's show you Discord as well. Ta-da, this is what Discord looks like. Let's also open a fetch tool. And while we're at it, we'll also open CMatrix. Come on, we don't have CMatrix? Okay, whatever. ASCII Aquarium, never mind, that one's not there either. Lol, okay. Regardless, this is what we have. Now, let's change the wallpaper. You can pick something like this duotone landscape. Ta-da! And guess what? We can also open the web browser, and the web browser is fully themed as well. Right now, it doesn't change the theme because I've set it to prefer dark, but if I set it to default, as you can see, it obeys. And it obeys quite nicely. Isn't that fun? Yes, sir. Okay, now let's change it to Everforest. This is what Everforest looks like. And there's also a setting that I've added, which basically allows me to toggle title bars whenever I want to. So if for whatever reason I wanted to turn Hyprland into a GNOME-style desktop environment, whether that be because I was testing GTK apps, and in GTK apps, when you're writing them, you see, you have the ability to basically display titles here in the title bar. So if you want to be able to test that out, you can do that with this title bar functionality I've created. Okay, then we can also show you the rest of the themes. This is Gruvbox Dark, as you can see here. Then after that, we have Kanagawa. This is what that looks like. Pretty fantastic. Now, let's show you this as well. Okay, it would be much better if just did it this way. Then we have Night Fox. There you go. This is what Night Fox looks like. Let's change the wallpaper to the iconic one I've had for over 40 videos. Okay, and then we have Noir, the one I showed you earlier. This absolutely slick, crisp, pristine monochrome theme. Okay, and then we also have Nord Darker. Ta-da! There you go. Then, okay. Now for Nord, there seems to be a name mismatch that's caused when the extension updates, or maybe because a different extension is being used, which is why Nord doesn't work for VS Codium, but that's something that can easily be fixed in one line. This is Rose Pine, the theme that you saw at the beginning of the video. And then, of course, your favorite, or at least one of your favorites, Tokyo Night. Absolutely gorgeous. And that is for the evolution of my setup from 2021 all the way until 2025 November right now. If you want to learn how to make a setup like this for yourself, you can just go ahead, click the first link in the description. I show you exactly how to do this step by step, as I showed you in this program over here. In fact, let me just turn it to dark theme so that you don't end up burning your eyes further. There you go. You're welcome. Okay. Now, yeah, basically everything that you need is going to be in this program. Whether it be you want to configure Weber or HyperPanel, I teach you that here as well in this hour-and-a-half long module. We really get deep into the depths when customizing this bar. I start off by having an absolutely plain bar. Absolutely nothing, right? There's literally nothing. Stripped it of all its clothes. This is what you see, and by the end of it, we have a bar looking like this. That's actually hyper panel, but we went from this to this. And all of that I teach you how to do. Not just teach you, but in case you wanted to perhaps not write the entire thing yourself, you could also download the config that you see here as well. Same goes for all the other modules over here, combined to give you a 10-hour experience that you will not find anywhere else, along with a couple of bonuses here as well, because why not? Right? Why not? You can just have these bonuses for free, completely for free. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it and want to see more like this in your feed, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Stay rising. Mwah.